After years of being subjected to dubious reality television shows, a new program looks to bring some intellectual depth back to our screens. I'm joined in the studio today by Captain Colonial, a host of the newest reality television sensation, So You Think You Can Country. So, Captain, explain the premise behind the show.
It's based on the right of self-determination. Under international human rights law, everyone has this right. That is to freely determine their political status and pursue their economic, social and cultural development.
It's a fascinating concept. What has it got to do with countries?
Well, my dear, external self-determination refers to people's right to form their own sovereign state, their own country.
But not everyone can just secede.
True, Alice, very good, very clever. But there's another part to it. Internal self-determination refers to people's right to choose their own political status and control their own affairs.
So to determine their affairs as a group within a current nation-state?
Correct. On our show, groups of people joined by a common identity attempt to convince us of their right to self-determination, and then we decide if they should be awarded the internal or external variety, or nothing at all.
But everybody has that right. Who are you to be making the judgment?
Well, I am particularly qualified on these matters. In fact, my great-great-great-grandpop was very influential in the Dutch East India Company. He drew national boundaries all over the world, so country making is in my blood. That's why people come on my show.
We had a chat with some of the contestants and have some behind-the-scenes footage we can share with you tonight.
Why did you come on the show?
Well, we at the Socialites Liberation Front strongly believe that we deserve to be recognised for our unique culture. The boat shoes, the beige slacks, the yachting and the stylish luxury items. I mean, we've worked incredibly hard to make sure that we have beautiful, clean suburbs with manicured lawns and sparkling pools. So we thought if we could be valued for our obvious worth and create our own country, then why not?
What did you think of the Socialites Liberation Front, Captain?
They made a compelling case.
What?
I was particularly moved by their unique contribution to the cultural fabric. They clearly deserve their own country.
Let's have a look at what the other group had to say.
Our people have been living on this land for thousands of years. We don't think that our values, our people, our culture are being represented properly by the current government. The right to self-determination will give us the voice that we've been fighting for.
What a powerful
Hello
message.
everyone, welcome to African Esquire TV, and I'm your host, Tony Cherie. So there's been a lot who have been asking questions, sending me questions about We Charge Colonialism. That is the organization that we started for the purpose of bringing to the United Nations charges against the United States that the U.S. has been colonizing African Americans. Now, why is this initiative important? Why is it that we think that this is the ultimate way to go? Well, we have to understand that things in the United States have no sign of getting better for African Americans. So what I'm saying is when you look at Black Lives Matter, for example, that was a movement that's supposed to bring an end to police brutality, right? Police brutality has not stopped, and really the movement has not really achieved anything other than awareness. And awareness is important, not to say that it's nothing, but other than awareness that we're now aware this is what is going on, nothing has changed. And that police are still killing Black people and they still get off 9 times out of 10, unless it's something truly egregious, then every once in a while they'll get a conviction, like Walter Scott, where the cop shot him when he was running away, shot him in the back, and then planted his gun next to Walter Scott and then said, "Oh, I shot him because he was trying to shoot me." That was something so egregious that they decided to actually convict that cop. But overall, 99% of cases, Black people are getting killed by the police and the cops are getting off. They're not getting any consequences, and some of them honestly go back to work. So this movement has not meant anything as far as actually changing the conditions that we live in as far as police brutality. When you look at other things that are going on, because police brutality is not in no way the only issue in Black America, and it probably isn't the worst issue. When you look at the prison industrial complex, and there's no show that the prison industrial complex plans on ending, meaning I don't think that this is going to stop anytime soon. America has also showed you in that regard where they're going to put Black people, what position they're going to put us in, and how they're going to continue to subjugate us. In addition, when you look at other things, look at the education system. Look at the fact that the education system is poor inside of Black neighborhoods. Look at the fact that it's underfunded. Look at the fact that we don't have any access to the same programs that white schools have. The education system in America, if you did not know, is actually more segregated than it was during the time of Brown versus the Board of Education. This is despite the fact that technically the actual segregation has been outlawed because Black people are funneled into Black neighborhoods where they're given no resources. Their teachers are low pay, and white people, of course, don't want their children going to that school, so they put their children inside of better schools. So we still have segregated education that's actually very poor and not helpful to us, and does not teach us about ourselves because it teaches us still things that are reminiscent of the idea that slavery was a necessary institution in America, that the United States owes Black people nothing, that Black people, the way that we are, the conditions that we're at, is all attributed to our own doing. So you have that going on. Then you have the child welfare system, which is overpopulated by Black families. Black children are disproportionately taken away from their parents compared to any other race, except for Native Americans. They have similar rates of disproportionality. You have so many systems in America of racism, institutional racism, that have continued to go on, despite the fact that we are supposedly inside of this post-racial society, or we're made to think because rappers have big houses and nice cars, and that because some Black people like Jay-Z or Puff Daddy are able to afford lots of things. We're told that because of those people and their affluence, that we're supposed to feel like we're achieving something, that we're supposed to feel like we have progress because of a small minority of Black people who have been allowed to succeed. Keyword allowed. And if you want to test the system, ask the system if they would allow all Black people to rise to the same ranks as these people. Of course, that's impossible because we're in a capitalist system. And in a capitalist system, there has to be an oppressed people, and they've chosen Black people to be the oppressed. Now, I'm saying all this to say, the reason why we feel that we have to go to the United Nations is because we have to realize that the government of the United States, as it is set up, is not going to treat us correctly. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what reform you do, any laws that you create. The government of the United States is not equipped to do anything that is outside of institutional racism, because if you think about it, this country was created when we were enslaved. It was not created for us to be free. It was created for us to continue on being the enslaved people of this country. So it's not built to have Black people be free. It's only built to have us being inside of a subjugated position compared to the white population. So once we understand that we are inside of a racist society and there really is no show of it changing, while you might have people's attitudes change or what they say to your face change, the institutions are still set up against Black people in every single sphere: economics, inside of banking, inside of prisons, inside of the criminal industrial complex, inside of child welfare, inside of education, inside of every single institution. It is set up against Black people. So when we understand this, we have to basically figure out what we're going to do. We have to strategize as a people. Every single other people would strategize under these conditions. So why should we not strategize? Now, there are things we can do. Obviously, a lot of people will go back to Africa. If you have not seen, there was actually a big ceremony of people, African Americans, who were given citizenship in Ghana recently. I think it was over 100. And just because they are African Americans, meaning, descendants of enslaved Africans, they were allowed to go back to Ghana and have free citizenship. And it's a beautiful ceremony. Some people are able to do that. A lot of us still aren't able to do that. And a lot of people honestly don't want to do that. So that's an option for some people, but for others of us who are not able to go back to Africa at this moment, not able to resettle in Africa, we are left with questions, we're left with conditions that we have to figure out how to navigate. This is where petitioning the United Nations comes in, because Black people who do decide to stay in the United States, what we need is what Malcolm would call Black nationalism, but what the international community would recognize as self-determination. So there are two types of self-determination. There are external self-determination and internal self-determination. External self-determination is when you have people who are basically given a separate society, a separate land, and it is for their own use. And a lot of people like that, for example, the Native Americans, they have reservations that are specifically designated for them. Now, those reservations are on crappy land that is polluted by the U.S. government, but they do have lands that are reserved for them. Now, Black people, because we aren't considered an indigenous people, we have a very hard and difficult argument making that we should have a separate state or a separate piece of land. However, because we are minority people, and whenever minority people are oppressed, you could claim that you deserve the right to internal self-determination. So what is internal self-determination? That means you have control over the institutions of your neighborhood. You have control over your banking system. You have control over your child welfare system. You have control over your criminal industrial system, over your criminal justice system, over your police departments. That is the type of rights that you want, control over that. Now, if we recognize that African Americans are being colonized by the United States, meaning the United States has us inside of a position inside of their systems, inside of their institutions, where we are begging, where we are taken advantage of, where we are exploited. If we understand that, then the only true redress to this situation is for us to have our own system, our own types of police departments, our own types of education system that are going to specifically address us, because the U.S. has shown that they are not willing or able to do right by Black people. So that is the only solution for those of us who want to stay here. So that is why we're going to petition the United Nations for recognition that we are colonized. Colonized meaning we are inside of communities that have the resemblance of a colony, meaning our economics are controlled by the outside, our police departments are controlled by the outside, our institutions are controlled by the outside, our education systems are controlled by the outside. We are basically living inside of someone else's colony, and we are being taken advantage of. We are used for labor in many instances. For example, not just low-paying jobs, but you have prison systems that literally use the Black people inside of the prison systems for labor. They'll pay them a couple of cents a day. You had the situation that I reported on with the California firefighters, where they're only paying these prisoners a few dollars to battle these fires that could kill them. And if the fires don't kill them now, then the smoke inhalation certainly could kill them in the near future. These are the types of situations that we're dealing with because we are being colonized. We are being stripped of our rights in the United States, and we are being made to benefit a host country, that being the mainstream American public. So when we say that we're petitioning the United Nations, we are saying that we need to make sure that Black people have our own systems. We need to make sure that we have our own banks. We need to have our own banking system. We have to have our own education system. We have to have our own systems that are going to do right by us, because the American systems have shown us time after time that they will not do right by us. So if you are interested in joining We Charge Colonialism as we go about this process, we have a number of committees that you could be involved in. For example, we have a public relations committee. We have a recruitment membership and recruitment committee. We have drafting committee for those who want to actually participate in the drafting process. We have a number of committees that you can participate in. And if you are not necessarily interested in being on a committee, maybe you don't have the time, but you just want to be aware of what's going on, you want to have a part of our communication, then you could also just be a supporter. So if you are interested in that, you can email wechargecolonialism@gmail.com, and I will, or someone else will send you the information necessary for you to fill out and take part inside of this revolution to regain control and freedom of ourselves, of our neighborhoods, and of our communities. So that's all I have on this subject. I will see you guys in the next video.